very good day to Sir Mahadi Naina Muhammad. My name is Parina Devi, daughter of A. Manimaran, matrix number 271181. I am from Group CI. The title of our assignment is the impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry in Malaysia. I will start our presentation with the introduction part. In the year of 2019, human civilization was hit by coronavirus disease, which is known as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. This rapidly spreading disease makes the World Health Organization (WHO) to declare a public health emergency of international concern, thus making it one of the deadliest pandemics in the history. The infected person will experience several symptoms like breathing difficulties, flu, fever, and cough. As we know, the transmission of COVID-19 takes place when the infected person having a close contact with another person through their respiratory system. Other than that, airborne transmission also could infect people, as infected droplets can linger in the air and survive in the sea for minutes to hours within enclosed spaces. Malaysia reported the first case of COVID-19 on the 24th January 2020 with 6,002 COVID-19 infection cases with 102 deaths as per end of April. This speed-spreading disease makes the government to implement the Movement Control Order (MCO) to cut down the spreading of virus physically. However, it gives a negative impact to Malaysia economically in many ways, especially to the tourism sector. For instance, according to the report, movement of people during the MCO period has decreased, led to decreases in the tourism activity. When the rate of operating tourism sectors decline, the nation's GDP level will eventually fall, as tourism sector is one of the main contributors for the GDP growth. GDP have a significant role in developing a nation's economic growth level. Basically, GDP is known as gross domestic product, which is a standard measurement of a country's economic level. Tourism sector is one of the main sectors that gives a huge contribution to the growth of a nation's GDP level. Our Prime Minister says that Malaysia's GDP growth for the year of 2020 was expected to shrink as much as 0.8% to 1.2%, with a total potential loss of up to 17.3 billion ringgit. All the tourism sectors, such as the inbound tourism, outbound tourism, hotel industry, and so on, are economically affected by the outbreak of this disease. According to the report, during the COVID-19, the GDP of Malaysia decreased quickly from the fourth quarter in 2019 to first quarter in 2020, which is decreased from 3.6% to 0.7% respectively. Moreover, Yap Lip Stang, CEO of the Malaysian Hotel Association, mentioned that wage cuts, unpaid holidays were the only chance to save jobs, but often smaller hotels cannot afford it. So, this leads to thousands of employees in the industry are being unemployed. Due to this tough situation, the unemployment rate in Malaysia was 3.3% in 2019, but it increases to 5.3% in the May 2020. Concerning that matter, our assignment has three main research questions on what is the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism industry in Malaysia, what are the solutions of the government to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia, and what are the other ways and solutions to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia. Our research objective is to analyze the impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry in Malaysia, to study the solution of the government to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia, and to suggest the other solution to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia. For importance of study, we believe that our assignment will be an important source or a secondary source for people to get information about the crisis that hit the country economically, especially for an academic purpose. It will be also an essential guideline for the government and policymakers for an effective decision-making process. At the same time, it will create an awareness of the consequences of the COVID-19 to the world.
Good day to sir and everyone. My name is Ho Jia Hui and my metric number is 270413. Now I would like to present the impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry in Malaysia. The first impact is the reduction in tourist arrival and tourist receipts to Malaysia by year. According to the table and graph, the tourist arrival decreased from 26.10 million in 2019 to 4.33 million in 2020. When the tourists reduced, the receipt of tourists also decreased from 86.10 billion in 2019 to 12.70 billion in 2020. This situation is due to the closure of international borders to control the spread of the COVID-19. Furthermore, the government implement MCO to prohibit tourists and foreigners from entering Malaysia, and even Malaysians are not allowed to travel in the state. For example, many tours to Malaysia has cancelled due to the outbreak of COVID-19. As a result, expenditure for entertainment, transportation, and accommodation of foreign tourists to Malaysia will reduce, leading to a decrease in tourist receipts. The next impact is the loss of employment in tourism industry. In this context, tourism industry need a lot of human interaction because it is labor-intensive industry. When the government implement MCO, the tourism activity in Malaysia will reduce. It will decrease number of tourists and tourism revenue, and eventually the tourism-related business will reduce expense by increasing unpaid leave and extended salary cut or firing employees to survive the COVID-19. And this situation will cause high unemployment in the tourism industry. For example, there is a 2,041 employee layoff, 9,733 employees forced to take unpaid leave, and 5,054 employees receive a pay cut in the hotel. Besides, AirAsia Berhad announced that it would lay off 111 cabin crew and 172 pilots and 50 engineers. The last impact is the decrease in the contribution of the tourism industry to GDP in Malaysia. Because of the pandemic, GDP growth is expected to result in a negative 2% contraction, which is the worst condition, and growth of 0.5%, which is the best condition in 2020 compared to 4.3% in 2019. According to Dewan Rakyat, this pandemic will cost the tourism industry in Malaysia an extra 100 billion in 2020. In this context, the tourism industry accounts for 11.8% of the GDP in 2020 would be greatly impacted by extensive restriction and aversion to travel activity. For example, due to the COVID-19 case increase in China and Singapore, the Visit Truly Asia Malaysia 2020 campaign that targeted 30 million visitors and 100 billion in tourism revenue has been cancelled.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Noshifa Awanis binti Ahmad and my metric number is 272736. Now I'm gonna present the solution of government to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia. The Malaysian government released in February 2020 a $4.8 billion emergency stimulus package to address the economic effect of the coronavirus pandemic COVID-19. The package sets out policy that promote economic development, promote investment, and encourage companies to follow the process of automation and digitalization. Firstly, the solution provided by the government are EPF reduced temporarily. Employer can get a minimum of 5% discount by the end of December 2020, according to the hotels. This reduction is part of the government's economic recovery policy, which seeks to soften the economic impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Employer will maintain their current contribution rate of 11% by completing notis pilihan mencarum melebihi kadar berkanun KWSP 17A khas on kwsp.gov.my. Net Subsidy for Payroll. The Wage Subsidy Program WSP or PSU, which stands for Program Subsidi Upah, was one of the Malaysian government initiative to help companies deal with the headcount costs related to the COVID-19 pandemic since April 2020. The PSU is a salary subsidy scheme in which employers accept a cash payment for each employee who qualified. To ensure the employment for all permanent workers in Malaysia hotel sector, the industry has asked the government for a subsidy for at least RM1,000 per month for employees earning less than RM4,000 per month before the end of this year. The industry believes that by doing so, they will be able to maintain their employees and as a result, the industry will be able to continue to exist. Lastly is taxation initiative. Under the framework of the Pemakasa package announced by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, the government has launched new initiative and expanded the existing initiative for the tourism, retail sector and other sectors. Malaysia hotel industry is looking forward to tax exemption as well as subsidy for hotel and tourism, especially for loss making hotels. The Malaysia Hotel Association claims that tax relief along with temporary exception for PCB deduction of 2020 reduce the pressure of all inhabitants. The tourism industry believes that this will be a welcome move for visitors who will see Malaysia as a welcoming international tourist destination. According to a survey carried out by the Tourism Malaysian, 84.2% strongly agree that COVID-19 has greatly affected their attitude towards leisure travelling. 15.9% strongly agree that after MCO, they believe travelling within Malaysia is a safe, and 71.3% strongly agree after MCO they prefer to travel domestically than overseas.
My name is Wu Ziqing, metric number 270434. Now I'm going to present about the solutions that suggested by the researchers to recover the tourism sector in Malaysia. Okay, first of all, the government should implement the expansionary fiscal policy. Basically, expansionary fiscal policy is one of the approaches to mitigate the unemployment by increasing the government spending and decreasing the tax cut. For example, the government should provide the financial assistance to the people such as the local vendors in the tourism sector and also the consumers. In other words, the subsidies should be provided to help the local community to face and been through the COVID-19 pandemic. The burden of the businesses in tourism sector could be mitigated, and the purchasing power of the consumer could be increased. Thus, that will bring a positive impact to the tourism sector by increasing the spending of the consumers and assisting the local vendors. Secondly, the expansionary monetary policy should be implemented. Expansionary monetary policy is an economic approach to mitigate the unemployment and the economic growth by controlling the money supply in the market. The central bank would control the money supply in the market either by increasing or decreasing the open market operation OMO, statutory reserve requirement SRR, and bank rate, and so on. As an example, to recover the tourism sector in Malaysia, the central bank would decrease the bank rate, and as a result, the bank rate reduces, the cost of lending and interest rate could be reduced. That will encourage more people to borrow money from the banks. Deposit in banks increases, and that will lead to the increase in the money supply. As a result, investment could be attracted and the economic growth would be recovered. So the tourism sector could be recovered too. Okay. In addition, applying the new norms is also very important to recover the tourism sector in Malaysia. New norms is a must in blocking the spreading of the pandemic. So the new norms that should be practiced are keeping the social distancing, wearing masks in the public, washing the hands, improving the hygiene, and so on. By this way, that will reduce the risk in infection of coronavirus and improve the confidence of travel among the tourist arrivals in Malaysia. Thus,
that will bring a good impact in recovering the tourism sector. Last but not least, the role of government is also the key of recovering the tourism sector in Malaysia. In this case, the government should enforce the law by penalizing and punishing the people who are not complying the SOP. Besides that, a sector-specific support should be provided by government. They should specifically address the needs of the companies in tourism sector by establishing a department that are functioning in recovery of the tourism sector. Also, the government should enhance the evidence base about the information in policy and business decision. It means that more research and development are needed to indicate the situation of tourism sector during COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi, my name is Vishal Devi Subramaniam, entry number 270555. Now move on to the last part, which is conclusion. COVID-19 has hugely and adversely impacted Malaysian tourism industry as tourists from all around the world are cancelling bookings and delaying travel plans to Malaysia due to worry about the virus. Based on the study, we can conclude that when the number of tourist arrival decrease, tourist receipt also decrease, where it will impact the employee, for example, increase unpaid leave, salary cuts, and also some of the employee are fired. Besides that, COVID-19 pandemic also has decreased the contribution of tourism industry to the GDP of Malaysia. Government also has implemented several policies in order to recover the economic growth, which had also brought a positive impact. Besides that, to recover the tourism industry in Malaysia, the researchers also has suggested some solution, such as implementing expansionary fiscal policy, expansionary monetary policy, practicing new norma, and the role of government. Under the expansionary fiscal policy, government should increase government spending by giving subsidy to the tourist business and also decrease the tax to mitigate the loss of the business in tourism sector. Other than that, government also should apply expansionary monetary policy by increasing money supply in economy, where it could be reduce the unemployment rate in tourism industry. Meanwhile, practicing new norma like keeping the social distancing, wearing masks, and washing hands also increase the confidence of travel among the tourist arrival to Malaysia. Besides that, government also should impose strict law related to SOP and drop the punishment to the people who do not follow the rules. Finally, in terminating the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of everyone's part is important in recover the tourism sector in Malaysia. As we know, tourism industry is the main sector that contribute to the Malaysian GDP. We have the responsibility to work together to unconnect the COVID-19 network. Thank you.